Hello, my most devout followers, and welcome back to the Celestial Perch. I apologize I've been gone for so long. Been doing holiday travel. I also got COVID, got kind of sick, so been dealing with that, but I'm back now and working on the next video. Just in general, we've also hit 1,000 subscribers, so woohoo! We did it. At least made it to the first 1,000, and hopefully a couple thousand more eventually. But for now, we'll just focus on improving the videos, and on the topic of that, I'm going to be getting new editing software, as well as I'm going to be updating the channel icon and banner, just to kind of associate it with a little bit more of a professional look. So I'll be having an artist do a rendition of the Avian 6 species, and then also just a little bit more focused on like the channel's kind of spiritualist design. But aside from that, we can look at the Golden Horde, which per the poll recently won as the con roleplay. So that's what we're going to be looking at here, playing it out. And similar to the basic builds, we'll be doing just kind of a Civ overview, year 0, 15, and 30. The only difference is that I will also, when going through it, kind of go over some of the more roleplay elements and why we took specific things, because there are things that obviously are not a kind of like multiplayer tier, or even maybe like Grand Admiral AI tier that you wouldn't normally take. So I'll be going over those. But we can go ahead and jump into the build. So looking at the actual build here, we've gone dictatorial. We get the empire size effect. This will help us stay within the reasonable empire size so we don't have too expensive of tech and traditions. Also, it fits with the roleplay, as the Great Khan is basically a monarch. Moving into our civics, we've taken a Barbaric Despoilers and a Distinguished Admiralty. Starting with the Despoilers, this fits well into our kind of like Marauder-style gameplay. Some downsides being we can't form migration treaties, we cannot form federations other than martial alliance or hegemonies and cannot join them, as well as we have decreased opinion for most other empires. The main benefits being we get the Despoilation Casus Belli, which will allow us to have an easy way to war, as well as get some extra resources in the event we win the war based upon the number of planets the enemy has. As well as we get the Nihilistic Acquisition Raiding Bombardment stance, which means we can steal pops and resettle them on our worlds instead of simply killing them. And Mercenary Enclave Capacity, meaning that we can field an additional mercenary enclave and get some minor benefit from that if we desire to do so. We cannot manually add or remove this after the game has started, so playing this build, you're basically locked into the Barbaric Despoilers playstyle. As well as Distinguished Admiralty, this will give us some extra levels for our admirals and generals, and for the admirals, the important part just equates to some extra fire rate. Speaking of fire rate, we also have 10% extra fire rate just from the Civic alone, some extra Admiral level cap, and some extra fleet command limit. Moving on to our ethics, we've taken Authoritarian, Militarist, and Spiritualist. Spiritualist so that we can go Psionic, Militarist so that we can play Distinguished Admiralty and Despoilers, and Authoritarian as it fits with our roleplay style. Moving on to our species, I'm leaning heavily into the one line of text that says the Khan is rumored to be a powerful psychic, in case you haven't noticed. It's just also my preferred style of play. So we went with Teachers of the Shroud, which will give us latent psionic. And this also means that some of our leaders will randomly be psychic. So we could even start out and our leader, he could be psychic at the start of the game. And that's a huge benefit, as well as other leaders like scientists, admirals, governors. It's very, very powerful. In addition, we've taken Rapid Breeders and Very Strong. These just kind of play into the roleplay. At least my idea of the Marauders is like strong, kind of quarrelsome Rapid Breeders, unruly and fleeting. I was tempted to take either quarrelsome or fleeting. I took fleeting in the end because the Khan dies all the time, like 30, 40 years into his tenure as the Khan. So it didn't really seem like a very long-lived individual. We decided to go with fleeting. And then of course, last two things, we took Teachers of the Shroud as the origin. My idea with this is that, the Khan is rumored to be a powerful psychic, so he's possibly in league with the Shroudwalker Coven Enclave, and kind of gives you some interesting things at the start, just starting out with psychic leaders. It's very fun as well. And chosen Savannah world, mainly because of the extra energy districts. They can be quite nice. In terms of the build overall, that's how it plays. Seeking to kind of consolidate your initial territory, find neighbors and harass them, as well as eventually start stealing their pops, their resources, and once we transition into the mid-game, we're going to find the Pretender Khan, destroy them, get the relic, and use that to set up our own satrapies, and then expand across the galaxy and eventually have everybody subjugated under our benevolent rule. There are other ways to play this, admittedly, probably a little bit more fitting ways. The other two ways that I was looking at and decided against was the Remnants origin, which gives you a relic world. Pretty fun. I played it, tried it once, wasn't a huge fan of it. Didn't really work too well with the kind of Barbaric Despoiler setup, trying to rush down the Eco-Humanopolis. And then also, if you have the habitat, let me bring it up here. If you take, where is it? Either Remnants or Void Dwellers, giving us the orbital habitats, and Remnants giving us the relic worlds. Both play into the roleplay quite nice, but I wanted to focus more on the rumors of a powerful psychic, and that's what I ended up doing. But for now, we can move on and look at the game details. So now looking at the game details, just gonna slowly scroll through these. Not many changes. Only thing to note is that I have reduced the abandoned gateways and wormhole pairs both to 0.25, just because it's fewer decisions for pathing for the AI to make. So it'll help a bit in the late game and mid game with the AI's decision making. And generally, I found the fewer decisions they have to make, the better they are with lag, and just the better they can be. So we'll go ahead and play and go over the Year Zero start. We can go ahead and take a quick look at our start. We'll also have to accept our rare crystals gift. And oh, looks like we have a pretty good one, okay. Got our Savannah world down here. And we'll start with our government. Our ruler is a space miner, so we'll get some output and reduced build cost, as well as some extra shipped weapon damage from Warlike, and some extra research speed from Scientific Leap, which is quite nice. In terms of the early game, we're also going to want to add some market trades in, probably about 20 minerals, sell our 10 food, and maybe add just a few alloys to help us get out our early colony ships. In terms of our policies, we'll change to isolationist, no one to raid yet, so might as well get that extra juicy unity. And then we can also change to civilian. We're going to want to stockpile some consumer goods and get tech going. Speaking of tech, we can outlaw robotic workers. That will remove the robotics technologies from the pool, and that's quite nice. In terms of our edicts, we will want to run information quarantine over veneration of saints for now, and we can also use crystalline sensors to just scout around. We can turn those on for now and see that our other Savannah world is over there. So we have our 2 guaranteed worlds, quite nice, and we can split up our ships as well and take each one and send them to different sectors, different areas, and go explore with them using the crystalline sensors edict. In terms of our tech specifically, we can look at just getting the nanomechanics and quantum theory techs, and then grabbing psionic theory. We happen to roll a psychic leader here, which is quite nice. That will give us 10% research speed on this, as well as 10% just because it's psionics. So we'll be completing that in 129 months. Pairing that with scientific leap means we'll get that very, very quickly. And then last thing to keep in mind is that we probably will want to pick up a new governor. Architectural interest here, rather powerful, reducing that building cost, very good. And then, of course, with psionic theory, the other thing to note is that we're not going to be picking up a tradition. We will be stockpiling our unity until we have the actual tech completed. And then once we do that, we can just put all of our unity into the psionics tree and unlock it probably by around year 9 to 10. With that, we can, of course, looks like this planet's a little bit more weighted toward minerals, so we'll probably get 1 to 2 mineral districts and then focus on technology on our capital. And then we have a size 15 and 20, so this one will be probably our consumer goods world, and this one could be our energy and tech, or something else as well. For now, though, that looks pretty good. We'll just start exploring with our science ships, and we'll check back in around year 15 and see how everything is going. So, checking back in at year 15, not too much to go over. In terms of our exploration, we've explored south and have found the Stellarite Devourer, as well as just lots of hostile mining drones and alien vessels blocking us from certain explorations, as well as we found the Wankwort system down here and quite a few planets: Alpine, Arctic, Tundra, and even a desert world down here. We've gotten our 2 guaranteed habitable worlds, as well as a nice arid world over here. And one of our first neighbors is a harmonious collective, so he was more than happy to become friends with us for the time being. We'll get, a research agreement out of him, a commercial pact, and we can just have him chill over here for a bit while we continue to build up our tech and alloys. And later, once we have an actual fleet, we can harm relations, declare war, and attempt to steal some pops from him. It's just for right now, he's Arctic preference, and we have no Arctic worlds to resettle them to. So we'll have to expand down this way, grab some, and eventually resettle his pops, and he'll be a good vassal at some point. For now, though, we can continue to develop our technology as our capital is focusing on. We got an early mining district, and then just lots of tech. Also focusing on some tech and energy on this world, and some just pure industry and consumer goods on this world. You can always just distribute luxuries and remove the colonist job. That should keep you above 40 and remove any chance that any negative modifiers occur. So as long as you're above 40, you should be okay. On this world, we've got some nice researchers and some good technicians, and we also got the puddle technician, which is kind of a weird one. Gives you food and alloys. So, kind of interesting. But for now, we can continue to explore and expand, snagging this world, putting some extra industry on it, maybe some mining as well. It does at least have 4. We could also get some mining on this world, maybe transferring over to mining. But I think our capital will be the mining and tech world, whereas this will be tech and energy. As well, we managed to get psionics around year 8, thanks to our really nice psychic early researcher and a scientific leap. So being able to get that, we were able to get psionics really quickly, get executive vigor, and for now, we're just looking for good techs. We've been able to pick up destroyers, carrier ops. We still need to find our holographic casts, as well as the one that's extremely beneficial for psionics, and that's colonial centralization, which will allow us to build our psychores. And then also we need to find the volatile motes. So trying to find a good old particles researcher, but so far we've only found computing. We do at least have a architectural interest governor who's psychic and an intellectual governor who's psychic, so we can transfer that over once we fill up our capital, fully up with tech. But for now, that's where we're going to go from here. Just continue to stockpile consumer goods, eventually transfer over to a nice alloy economy. Once we get cruisers, we can either wipe out this neighbor or hopefully find another neighbor down here that's maybe arid, or at least something that we could expand to. But for now, that should be it, and we'll check in at year 30 and see how everything's going. So, checking back in at year 30, things are going rather well for our Great Khan roleplay build. We've been able to snag a lot of techs that we need, as well as get some key systems, and develop an economy that could support at least some cruiser production, and at least stay somewhat competitive with the Grand Admiral AI around year, 25 to 35. Is when you'll probably want to start harassing them. It's year 31 at this point. We were able to get a psionic avatar, and as well as fortify this system with a pretty solid defensive station. Our neighbors up to the north got vassalized, so we will eventually attack these kind of gross-looking rock people, as they are also a Savannah preference. We'll be able to steal them, bring them back to our cities, and use them as slaves, which will be quite nice. In terms of our technology, we have been able to get colonial centralization. A bit late, but this is an important tech for any kind of psychic empire, as it will allow you to get psychores and build telepath jobs. Quite nice. As well as some extra research alternatives, the chemical plants, which will allow us to get holographic casts, and just other kind of defensive and offensive techs. For society, we were able to get some extra amenities, some pop growth speed, and some unity, as well as some blocking, clear blockers, and habitability. Most importantly for engineering, we were able to secure cruisers, holographic casts, and star holds, as well as just some good economy techs and space torpedoes, which will allow us to run our torpedo cruisers. In terms of our society management, we've gone psionics, prosperity, and supremacy. If you happen to find someone a bit earlier that you're planning on attacking, you can go psionics and then supremacy and have that fully fleshed out and ready to go. But since I had a neighbor that was relatively passive, and I was looking more so to develop my economy, I went prosperity and then supremacy, picking up executive vigor and one vision. Executive vigor allowing us to run fortify the border, capacity subsidies, mining subsidies, veneration of saints, and information quarantine all at the same time. Rather powerful. And then for our next steps, we can take our cruiser designs, both missile and hangar cruisers, create maybe 5 or so of those with the goal of getting about 10, and using them and our psionic avatar, as well as trying to bait the AI into bad fights with hangar stations, we should be able to harass this AI, go through their vassal, shouldn't be too hard, and then eventually start stealing some of their pops. We haven't been able to find the Marauder empires yet, but once we do, we can look towards building up a large enough fleet that we could hopefully contest the Great Khan and take that relic. Beyond that, the last thing to mention is that we got the Composer of Strands Covenant, so we got some extra pop growth speed, some extra leader lifespan, and randomly we lost the fleeting trait on most of our pops, which is kind of beneficial, and you will as well just lose and gain random traits. But this Covenant's actually pretty strong and can translate into some pretty good extra pop growth speed in the early game, especially since we were able to get it around year 25. Actually, sorry, 24, I believe. So pretty good. But beyond that, we can continue to expand and hopefully get the Golden Horde to a point where we can contest most of the Northern Galaxy and eventually set our sights towards the south. But thank you for watching, and tune in the rest of this week. I'll have some more videos coming out, but thank you and have a blessed day.